Hello, third graders. Today we are going to review and practice our fraction knowledge. So, we're going to spend some time today talking and reviewing what fractions are and what do fractions represent. If you remember, fractions show equal parts of a shape. So, they are part of a whole shape. And each part of that whole is called a fraction. And some examples of fractions are 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, and many, many others, but these are just a couple of examples to kind of help refresh your memory. In every fraction, there are two parts. The top number of a fraction is called the numerator. This numerator shows the number of equal parts that are being counted or being represented. The bottom number of a fraction is called a denominator, and this shows the total number of equal parts that are in the whole thing that we're talking about. One way that Mrs. Peterson likes to remember numerator and denominator is that a denominator and the word down start with the same letter. So if you think about numerator and denominator, you can always remember the denominator goes on the bottom. Now let's take a look at this pizza that I have over here in the corner. I can see that this pizza is divided into 4 sections. So it's one whole pizza, and I have 4 different sections, or you could also say 4 different slices or 4 different fractions represented here. So on one section, I can see that there is a topping of mushrooms. On another section, I see that there's a topping of green peppers, a section of pepperoni, and a section of black olives. So if I'm looking at this pizza, I could say that there are 4 equal parts. So 4 becomes my denominator. That's the number of equal parts that are in my whole pizza. If I was looking at just the pepperoni section, because that would be Mrs. Peterson's favorite, I can see that there is only one section that is all about pepperoni out of the 4 sections. So I would say that 1/4 of this pizza is pepperoni. Now, as we talk about fractions, there are some words that we should know. So one vocabulary word that's really important is just the word fraction. This is just a number that names part of a whole, or also could be part of a set. So a fraction is always less than 1 because it is part of a whole object, a whole set. The numerator, remember again, this is the top number, and this shows the number of equal parts that are being counted in our problem. The denominator is the number that's on the bottom, and this shows the equal parts that are in my whole that is being discussed. And then we also are going to talk about unit fractions this week. And a unit fraction always has a numerator or a top number of 1. And this shows one equal part of the whole. So in our last example of the pizza, the pepperoni pizza was 1/4, and that would be a unit fraction because my numerator is 1. Now, when we talk about fractions, we can talk about fractions as parts of a whole. For example, again, here's another pizza. And this fraction shows us 4 equal slices again, and it also shows us that there's one piece there that has had a bite taken out of it. So I would say if I'm looking at this whole, part of a whole pizza, that one of the 4 pizzas has been eaten. So one piece of those 4 pieces has been eaten. So 1/4 of the whole has been eaten. We can also talk about fractions as they relate to a group or a set. So if I look here, I see 4 chocolate chip cookies. Now there are 4 individual cookies, and so we would say we have a set or a group of cookies, and only one of those cookies has a bite taken out of it. And so 1 out of the 4 cookies has been eaten. So it's again 1/4. It's different than if I just have one cookie and we divide it into pieces. Here we have a set of cookies, and so we say 1/4 of the set has been eaten. Here is another example or another way to look at parts of a set. Let's say we have some fruit in a basket, maybe on the counter of your house, and there are some strawberries and some apples in this basket. If I want to know how many apples are in the basket, that would be part of a set because I'm talking about apples, strawberries, any other fruit that might be in that basket. And in this example, 3 pieces of fruit are apples and 2 pieces of fruit are strawberries. When I talk about parts of a set, I need to count up how many pieces of fruit do I have all together. That's my whole. And I have 5 pieces of fruit here. If I look at just how many are apples, there are 3 apples. That's my numerator. But I have 5 pieces of fruit total. That's my denominator. If I want to know how many parts of the set are strawberries, again, I have 5 pieces of fruit, which is my whole set. That becomes my denominator. And 2 of those pieces of fruit are strawberries. So 2 is my numerator. And I would say 2/5 of the set are strawberries. Now, let's do a little practice with some shapes. So if we look at these pictures, and you might recognize this page from Math Expressions workbook that we maybe practiced in our class, but we're going to use it as a review today. If I look up here at number 4, it tells me, or it's asking me, how many equal parts are in my whole shape. So if I look at number 4, I can see there's 1 yellow triangle, 1 red triangle, 1 green triangle, and 1 blue triangle. So there are 4 equal parts in this whole shape. It's a rectangle divided into 4 equal parts. The next part of number 4 says the blue triangle only. If I just want to look at the blue triangle, I see 1 blue triangle, and I remember that there are 4 equal parts. So I would say that the blue triangle is 1/4 of the whole shape. Now, let's look at number 5. This one says how many equal parts are in this shape. If you look at the big overall shape, this looks like a trapezoid. And if we look at the individual pieces here, I see 2 red ones, and then I see a green one, a blue one, and then 2 yellow ones. So there are 6 equal parts in this trapezoid. And again, it's asking me for the blue triangle. What fraction does the blue triangle represent out of the whole shape? Again, I see 1 blue triangle, but this time there are 6 equal parts. So it tells me that the blue triangle is 1/6 of the whole shape. Let's look at number 6. This time I see a green, a blue, and a red. So here there are 3 equal parts in my shape. And again, I'm still wanting to know the blue triangle, and I see 1 blue triangle, and remember my whole was divided into 3. So the blue triangle would be 1/3 of the whole shape. Number 7, I see 1 red, I see 2 yellow, 1 blue, 1 green. So I see 5 equal parts for number 7. I'm asking about the blue triangle again. So I know there's 1 blue triangle and there were 5 equal parts. So the blue triangle is 1/5 of the whole shape. For our last one, number 8, there are 2 red triangles, there are 2 yellow triangles, 2 blue triangles, and 2 green triangles. So in this shape, we have 8 equal parts. And if I'm looking at just blue, I see there are 2 blue triangles. However, it's asking me for only 1 blue triangle. One of the blue triangles would be 1/8 of the whole shape. If I was looking at both blue triangles and representing both blue triangles, I could say it's 2/8, or I could even say that it's 1/4. If I look at each color group, blue is one rectangle out of the 4 colors. Okay? Now, let's talk about what you're going to do today for your must do and your may do slides. For must do, you're going to practice your math facts today, either choosing Extra Math or Math Magician, and practice for 10 minutes. Now, what Mrs. Peterson always said in her class was if you are going to choose Math Magician, choose the facts that maybe you're not as quick at. So if we know 2s, 3s, and 4s really, really quickly, let's not practice those. Let's practice 7s, 9s, something that takes us a little while longer to start. Start with one of those facts first and practice for 10 minutes. Then you are going to be listening to this video, which you are already doing, and then you're going to watch this Brain Pop Junior video titled More Fractions, and that's going to give you just another little base of review knowledge to practice fractions. Then you're going to go to your student work slides that can be found in your Google Classroom, and you have 2 practice sets to do today. The first one is the top one, which is number 1 through 10, and it is called Identifying Fractions. So you are going to look at some fraction pieces, and you are going to tell us how many pieces of the whole are shaded or colored. And the bottom one, we're going to practice with fractions of a set, and that will be number 3 through 6. And you're going to look at the sets of apples, and you're going to answer the question. On each of your work slides, so the first one, you're going to answer number 1 through 10. You're going to answer, record your answer right here in this white box. So you're going to look at this picture for number 1, write the fraction for the part that is shaded or colored for all of those 1 through 10. The second part of the practice that you have is looking at each one of these sets of apples and recording in these boxes which fraction of the apples are gray or which fractions of the apples are black. Whatever the question asks, record your answer here in the box. When you are finished with that, there are some optional may-do activities for you to do today to just review our fraction knowledge. Option number 1 is a fraction fling game. So on this game, there are going to be some bubbles of fractions and some pictures, and you're going to use a rock and a slingshot to pop the bubbles that match. And again, we're just identifying what a fraction is, numerators, denominators, and really reviewing that fraction information. For option number 2, again, you are going to identify some fractions by looking at some pictures. Option number 3, we have the option to use IXL. If you have a classroom subscription, you can do as many practice problems as you want under the W section. That's all about fractions. So if you want to go in and choose an identifying fraction section or a little bit more challenging fraction section, go for it. If you do not have a classroom login or a classroom subscription, then you can go on IXL, but you just get 10 free questions a day, and you can just use it to practice your knowledge. The last one, option 4, is a fraction quiz. You can go on there and test yourself and see what you get on that quiz, and it might be kind of fun to send your score to your teacher. We would love to know how you did on your fraction review. All right, boys and girls, I hope that today's math lesson was kind of fun and just a good review to get our head thinking about fractions as we go forward this week and continue to learn about fractions. Have a great day, boys and girls.